I think we're good. Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Jana, and I am the new chair here. I'm so excited to work with all of you. I'm so appreciative of this amazing opportunity. So, if you guys have any questions for me, you want to reach out, my email, I will put it in the chat, and you guys are more than welcome to reach out. Tonight, we have quite a few presentations, actually, 3. Each presenter will have about 15 minutes, including a Q&A session. So, if you guys have any questions, leave them for the end. And of course, if you're not speaking, have your mics off. You guys know how it goes. And it's being live streamed. So even though there's some negatives, this whole COVID thing, at least you guys can go back to the meeting on YouTube and look at any emails or numbers that they provide us. So as we said before, our first presentation is going to be from the Bay Ridge Center Representative Todd. So you can take it away.
Well, good evening, everybody. And it's great to see so many old friends. My name is Todd Fliedner, and I am the acting executive director of Bay Ridge Center as of Monday. Marianne retired. She's staying on as a consultant for now, but she, yeah. So tonight, what we want to do is we were very fortunate in that we received a very generous grant from the Robin Hood Foundation in April. And basically the idea we pitched to them, well, when we first went to them, that's when it was still very hard to get a vaccination. You know, the appointments were limited, and seniors especially had difficulty because the online registration for appointments was sometimes very hard for them to navigate. So we pitched an idea, the Robin Hood, basically that we would focus on making sure all older adults in Southwest Brooklyn got vaccinated. We were incredibly fortunate to retain the services of one of our MSW interns from last year, Katarina Bartel. She was like one of those interns that you wanted to clone, and I still do. We have to talk about that, Katarina. But she agreed to really champion this project, and she has been operating it all summer through our Bay Ridge Connects, our Newark office on 7609 3rd. And the project is continuing through November 15th. And I just wanted Katarina to share our progress. And we still know there are people out there that need to get their vaccinations. And now there's the booster question. So Katarina, please take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Todd. I'm going to share my screen because I have a slideshow. Okay, everybody can see the presentation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. As Todd explained, I'm going to be talking about our Connect to Vaccine program. And so I've been the program coordinator for the program since the beginning of May. So first I'll give a little overview about what we do, what we've accomplished so far, and then I'll just give sort of a brief recap on why the vaccine is important, and then the current recommendations and updates regarding the booster shot. So at the Connect to Vaccine program, the bulk of what we do is schedule COVID-19 vaccination appointments. So we don't actually give the vaccine at our office, but we've partnered with various vaccine sites and local pharmacies. So when people contact us in need of the vaccine, based on their availability and where they live and which vaccine they want, we're able to connect them with the best possible appointment to meet their needs. We're also participating in a referral bonus program through the city. So whenever we refer somebody to a city-run vaccination site, we get $100 from the city, and we've decided to give that back to the community as an additional incentive for getting vaccinated. So in addition to the $100 incentive that the city is already doing, people can potentially earn up to $200 when they book their appointment through us. We've also been offering free transportation to and from the vaccination site with Rob, who's a driver at the Bay Ridge Center, and the Accessoride van that we have. And then we also have a partnership with Lyft, where we have Lyft codes that we're able to use to help people get to and from their vaccination appointments. We also answer people's questions about the vaccine. So we've had several people walk into our office or call in, who have general questions, concerns. Perhaps they've gotten some mixed signals from their doctors, or they're getting mixed signals from the media, and they just, want a little bit of clarity on what the vaccine's all about. We also help people obtain their proof of vaccination documents. So the most common example is the New York State Excelsior Pass. So we help people download that on their phone, especially the seniors we work with. We, help them get that app installed, and we also help people get a hard copy printout of the Excelsior Pass as well. And then finally, we're able to help people who have lost their vaccination records. So several people have come in saying, I lost my vaccination card. What do I do? Do I have to get vaccinated all over again? Type of thing. And so we're able to kind of help them figure out where to go to replace the records. So our accomplishments so far. So as Todd said, we got the grant in April, and I've been working on this project since the beginning of May. And since that time, we've contacted 2,000 seniors in the Bay Ridge community, predominantly seniors who are affiliated with the Bay Ridge Center. So for that, we were just reaching out to all of our members to explain the services we have to offer, and to ask them if they need assistance getting vaccinated, and from there, provide the necessary support. We've provided information to approximately 300 people. And so this is specifically a more in-depth conversation about the vaccine, about the pandemic, answering questions. We've directly scheduled approximately 150 vaccination appointments. We've collaborated with several local businesses and politicians' offices around Bay Ridge to help spread the word and increase awareness of our services. And lastly, we've distributed over 40,000 flyers and mailers around Bay Ridge and surrounding neighborhoods to get the word out about the services that we have to offer. So just sort of a brief recap for why the COVID-19 vaccine is important. As I'm sure you all know, the vaccine protects against severe COVID-19 infection. And we know this mainly because the vast majority of people currently hospitalized with COVID-19 are unvaccinated. Herd immunity is another key reason why the vaccine is important. And so essentially that just means at a certain point, when enough people in the community are vaccinated and protected against the virus, it's much harder for the virus to spread, which makes it much, much easier to deal with and much less likely for people to get severely ill. Herd immunity also prevents the spread of new variants. So the more people that have immunity, the harder it is for the virus to mutate and create these new variants. And lastly, getting vaccinated protects people who cannot get vaccinated. So there is a subset of people who the vaccine isn't safe for them because of a medical reason. And so for those individuals, the more people in their community are protected, the less the virus is spreading and the safer they will be and the more protected they will be against COVID-19. And I think this last point is really important for people who, we've spoken to several people this summer who feel, that they have a strong immune system, and that if they were to get COVID, they're confident in their body's ability to fight the infection. So then in that case, what's the point? Why bother getting vaccinated? But for someone in that position, even though they might not get severely ill with COVID-19, if they get vaccinated, they might be protecting someone who is in their community that does not have the choice to get vaccinated. And then so some updates about the vaccine and the booster shot, because I know the information is changing on a near daily basis, and we're all feeling a little bit confused about, is the booster shot happening? Is it not? What's the recommendation? So the booster shot is currently only recommended for people who are moderate to severely immunocompromised, who have had an mRNA vaccine as their initial sort of course of the vaccine. So either Moderna or Johnson & Johnson. Ideally, the booster shot for those that are eligible would be the same as whatever they got for their first 2 doses. But, if that's not possible, it is okay to mix and match between the two mRNA vaccines. The purpose of the booster shot is to either boost immunity that has declined several months after receiving the initial vaccinations, or for some people who are immunocompromised, after getting 2 doses, their immune response never went up the way it would for the average person. So a booster shot could be to add immunity that was never there, or to boost immunity that has declined over time. And so boosters are especially important for higher risk groups who have lower baseline immunity, or who are at higher risk because of their job, for example.
Can I just interrupt 1 second, Katharina?
Yes.
You said Moderna and Johnson & Johnson. Did you mean Moderna and Pfizer?
Sorry, yes, Moderna and
Okay.
Pfizer.
I got a little
Yes.
confused. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the other day, an FDA advisory panel recommended mRNA booster vaccine for individuals at high risk. So not the general population, specifically individuals at high risk, which I think, and who's considered high risk, that definition certainly depends. But my understanding is, as of now, that's people who are 65 years and older, people who have certain medical conditions, healthcare workers, first responders, teachers, essentially the group of people that got the vaccine first when the vaccine was first available. It's still being studied whether immunity is or will decline among the vaccinated general population. So that's still being studied to determine if, for the general population, a booster shot is necessary. And there's also the point of sort of balancing the need to protect our high risk population, and also to address the fact that there are a lot of people around the world who haven't had access to a first dose. And that's really important to consider, since, it is a global pandemic. And as we've seen, variants that have developed in other parts of the world have reached the US and, several other countries. So kind of balancing that and making sure everybody has a first dose, but also protecting a higher risk population is also an important consideration. So this is our contact information. Thank you all for listening to my presentation. Feel free to share our contact information with your community. If anybody could benefit from our services, or you have questions, feel free to reach out. And so if anybody has any questions.
Yes, I do.
Let me stop sharing my screen so I can see everybody again.
Stella Cocolis.
Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead.
If you did not get any dose, whatever, Pfizer, or can you take the booster or no?
So when you get a booster, the booster is actually
don't have any vaccination.
Right. Yeah. So the booster is actually the same thing as the first dose and the same thing as the second dose. So getting a booster would be the same thing as getting a first dose.
And the second question is, if you want to take, instead of Pfizer or Moderna, take Johnson for the booster. Can you do that?
No, so the recommendation, if you were to be eligible for a booster, if you got Pfizer or Moderna, then you should get Pfizer or Moderna as the booster, because those two are the same type of vaccine. But the Johnson & Johnson is a different type of vaccine, and they actually, I don't believe there's any recommended booster shot for people who have gotten Johnson & Johnson.
So Johnson doesn't have any booster. If you had the Johnson & Johnson, you don't have to take any booster now.
Yes, that's correct. So not yet. And I think part of the reason is because the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was released later. So the timeline for that vaccine is behind the other two. So they're still researching, and there could be a recommendation that, if you got Johnson & Johnson, you should get a booster. but it'll be a little more time before that's official.
I just wanted to add that there was a recent research study that was released, not that it's been approved yet, that indicates that getting a booster, even for Johnson & Johnson, would be likely to be effective. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of new information is going to continue to come in.
Certain people in Europe, they prefer Johnson and Johnson. Here in America, I think we have different opinions and reflecting advices. I don't know what. Is it business or is it a reality that Pfizer is a better vaccine and Moderna is a better vaccine? People get really confused many times, especially if they have the ability to select.
Jana, you have one more
Yeah.
question from Julie. Julie, do you have your hand raised?
Yes, well, actually, it was more of a statement. I wanted to say that I would be very happy to post anything that you have on my social media. And also, I'd be very happy to have my office be a point of, for flyers or anything like that. So just want to mention that.
Sure, yeah, I can definitely get you a copy of our flyer.
Possible to have the presentation emailed to us so we can also share it?
Yeah, definitely.
That way we can get the whole resource. Are there any other questions? Anyone raise their hand? Julie, we got you.
Sarah.
I have to lower it.
Sarah, did you have a question? I see something in the chat.
Yeah, I actually have a comment. So we did do a presentation with Bay Ridge Senior Center with David Dring, and we have another presentation coming up on the 29th. I can send that information where you can actually, so Dr. Paramaswa, who's an epidemiologist at NYU, can answer questions in real time, and it's specifically just for those who want information on like the vaccines, the boosters, because I think some of the information currently they're trying to do a mix and match. So if you had a Moderna vaccine administered, then you may be eligible for Pfizer, but as I'm sorry, her name
Katerina?
Katerina, yes. As Katerina said, I wrote everything down except for her name. She says new information is coming on board every day. And so there was actually hearings the day that she presented. So we were waiting for that. We're doing the second half, I believe is on the 29th. It was confirmed today, and I can send the information forth. And then everyone who's here can participate, or we can provide the information as well as the handouts.
Thank you.
More resources, the better. I think with that being said, we're going to move on to our second presentation by NYU Langone representatives, also regarding family health centers and services for older adults. We have Lauren Folkmer and Rebecca Gallagher. I hope I pronounced that correct. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for inviting us. Lauren, do you want to say anything before I start? Lauren was going to talk about older adult services specifically, and then I was going to talk a little bit about the family health center services overall.
That sounds good to me. I say we just get started. Thank you, Rebecca.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Let's see, hold on. Hold on. Shoot, hold on. Sorry, I'm having an issue with sharing it for some reason.
I wonder if it's because we're on the same.
Oh, maybe. Are you able
sign
to
in?
share it?
Why don't I share?
Okay.
I can share. I have it. Yeah. There we go. And you just tell me when you need me to advance the slide.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay, very good. So Lauren and I both work for the Family Health Centers at NYU Langone. And within that health center, there's a department called the Department of Community-Based Programs. And we both work within that department. And essentially the way I think of community-based programs is we offer at the family health centers, we have a holistic idea of what it means to be healthy. And in order to be healthy, you really need to have a comprehensive array of programs that address educational needs, social needs, economic needs, because at the end of the day, how can you be healthy if you don't, for example, have needs such as food insecurity addressed? So with that in mind, we're going to start with the health services and then go into a little bit more of what we do. Do you want to go to the next slide? Wonderful. So I think most of you probably, when you hear family health centers, you think of our medical services. So I'll just talk briefly about those. Most of these services are located within Sunset Park, but we actually do have medical services throughout New York City, but primarily in South Brooklyn. So we have adult and pediatric care, we have specialty care. So that in some cases means directly provided in Brooklyn, but it also means we have connections to the whole NYU Langone network. And so any patient that comes to us, we're able to connect them to a vast array of services. Women's health, so that includes OBGYN, dental services, behavioral and mental health. And behavioral mental health is actually run out of a site in Sunset Park, but increasingly they're providing a lot of services through telehealth. And that started during the pandemic, but they found that it's so successful. I think the plan is to continue, assuming insurance allows it, beyond the pandemic. We also have rehab therapy, speech, nutrition. So a pretty comprehensive array of services. Do you want to go to the next slide? Wonderful. So this shows a little bit of how many people we're actually reaching. And as I mentioned, we do serve people primarily in Brooklyn, but we also connect them to services even outside of Brooklyn. And honestly, anywhere someone is, if they come to us, we will certainly do our best to assist them. If they don't have insurance, which is certainly true of many of the people we work with, then we at least are able to provide sliding scale, which can go very low. And also, if anyone is eligible for health insurance, we have facilitated enrollment specialists who would help them to enroll in health insurance. So either way, our staff work to make sure that people get the health services they need and that a lack of health insurance doesn't provide a barrier. So we serve roughly 100,000, well, I'll divide it up the way it is here on this slide, 265,000 people a year that receive medical services. That's excluding dental. In addition to that, 97,000 receive dental services. We also have about 22 school-based health centers, and that's a program that I used to work in, so it's kind of dear to my heart. And essentially, it's not probably what you think of when you hear the phrase school health. We have nurse practitioners and social workers who work in the clinics. But if, let's say, a young person has a sore throat, they don't call the parent only. What they would do is they have labs in the clinic. They would be able to run a test, for example, for strep. The nurse practitioner would be able to write a prescription. And so that means that for a parent, they don't have to bring their child for services unless more services are needed because they've already been addressed in the school. Behavioral health, that, as I said, is primarily operates out of our Sunset Terrace site. And they are, I think, the biggest behavioral health department in Brooklyn, certainly one of the larger ones in New York City. And so they, in addition to individual therapy, group family, psychiatric services, medication management, they also have services tailored specifically for people who are HIV positive, rehab services, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech. And then community medicine is specifically, that's located throughout New York City. And that's medical services for people who are in homeless shelters. And so that's a really great program because a lot of times those are people who don't have good access to medical care. So the idea is to provide comprehensive medical care in the shelters. So that's a little bit about our medical services. And this just shows a little map of where some of our sites are in Sunset Park specifically. And we have pharmacies that we work with. We have behavioral health. As I mentioned, we have HIV services. We also, we do have a site that we provide vaccines out of, but now we are transitioning to doing what we call community pop-up events, which means that we will have staff go to a given community site if there's enough people that want a vaccine and deliver the vaccine right at that site. And now we're getting into what we call community-based programs. So as I mentioned, that's the department that Lauren and I both fall under. And the idea with that is we really want to meet the needs of everyone in the community, whether that's in Sunset Park or surrounding areas. And those services start from, I was going to say infancy, but really it's even before infancy because we work with women who are pregnant. And we have early childhood programs. We have youth development programs for teens. We have a large AmeriCorps program. We have what we call family support services, which are case management services. And I'll leave it to Lauren to talk about older adult services. And I'll just go into a teeny bit more detail about these programs. Most of the people we work with are from are immigrants. So we hire staff that are from the community, speak the languages, representative of the cultures and the backgrounds of the people we serve, because that's best practice. All of our services are free. People can be undocumented, doesn't matter if they have insurance or not. We make our services as accessible as possible. So I'll say a little bit more about our programs. We have two different kinds of home visiting programs for families with young children. One is called our Healthy Families program, and that's geared to meet the needs of women who are pregnant or who have children under the age of 3. And that program really is more of a case management program. So it's about providing support to the mother to be or the mother with the infant. Everything from support around labor and delivery, support around breastfeeding, support around connecting to needed services, helping parents figure out like what's normal development, what's cause for concern, does my child need additional services? So that's a little bit about our Healthy Families program. And then we have another program called Parent-Child Health Plus. And that program really works with families to help their child up until the age of 5 to prepare for school. So any family that has a low-income child born in 2019 or afterwards could be eligible for that program. And Healthy Families also is geared to meet the needs of low-income families who often have more difficulty connecting with resources. So Parent-Child Health Plus, staff go to the house every week. They bring books, they bring toys, and they work with parents around what are activities they can do in the home that will help their child to be ready for school. And then youth programs, we have a program called Project Safe that essentially helps young people to learn the skills they need and the information they need to prevent early pregnancy and HIV. And we have health educators who go into schools, go to community-based organizations, and they also recruit people from their audiences who want to be peer educators. And that way we have teens who are educating their peers, because oftentimes teenagers prefer to listen to other teenagers, right? So we have young people that are trained to use different ways of reaching other young people. We have a theater group, we have a social media group, we have one group that focuses on advocacy around issues that are important to young people. And then we also have a group of teens that are trained to do workshops themselves. Then we have educational programs. We have a high school equivalency prep program, or a GED program, as people might know it. And that's for people that are 17 and a half and over, as long as they have not had an opportunity to complete high school. We would help them to get ready for that exam. And we have classes at all different levels. So even if, for example, when someone comes in, they test at a 4th grade level, that's fine. We would work with them to help them develop the skills so that they would be ready to get their GED or their high school equivalency. And then we'd help to prepare them for the next step. So that could be college, that could be getting a better job or getting a job at all. We also have ESOL or English classes for people, and those classes are day and evening. And a lot of our programs would not be able to do the work they do without our AmeriCorps members. So we have a large AmeriCorps department. And so every year we recruit new members and then they're placed in different programs. And then we have what we call family support services, which is really case management services. And those staff help people to apply for important benefits. So that could be SNAP or food stamps or cash assistance. We also help do advocacy for people. Maybe they have a benefit, but for some reason it was stopped. And then we also do workshops on topics like how to access health services, intimate partner violence. And then last but not least, we help connect people to all kinds of services, even if we don't provide them. So if someone comes in and needs legal services, we don't provide them directly because we don't do everything, but we do have relationships with other partners. So we would help connect that person to the legal services that would meet their needs. And I'm trying to think if I left anything out. We also have early childhood programs. So in addition to the home visiting programs, we have early childhood centers. Depending on the site, some of them start in infancy and other ones just have pre-K programs, but that's a great resource in the community. And we also have a WIC program to address food insecurity, and that's geared towards women who are pregnant, as well as children and families with children between infancy and 5 years. And that program, in addition to giving people benefits so they can purchase food, it also includes support for breastfeeding and support around other needs that young families tend to have. And we also have a food pantry, and that's expanded a lot under COVID. That operates on Fridays. That's open to everyone. There's an app we use for people to make appointments, but if people have difficulty with that, they can call and we'll help them with the appointment. And, before COVID, we used to offer the food pantry indoors with what we call a client choice model, where people could select the items that they want. That's been too hard to do sort of post-COVID. So we transitioned to doing that in our parking lot. We're serving a lot more people and we pre-bag the food. So at some point we'll go back to the other model, but for the safety of both the people coming to the pantry and the staff and volunteers, that's the way that we're doing it for now. But we went from, serving about 100 people at a service to, at the height of the pandemic, serving 800. So it's just been an exponential increase in demand. And so we luckily have been able to provide the food to people who come. And Lauren, can you think of a program that I left out?
I can't. I think you've really covered it all. And I would say from my perspective, as the Director of Services for Older Adults, it's been such a pleasure to be part of a network that has this comprehensive of a breadth of services. We've had opportunities for partnering with other departments within community-based programs. For example, when one of the senior services sites was dealing with the aftermath of a suicide, we were able to reach out to the Sunset Terrace Behavioral Clinic to have them come into the site, deliver education about suicide prevention and resources for depression. I've had domestic violence referrals that I've made within our network, and any number of resources. It's really nice, even though you might think that the programs are quite siloed by the populations that they serve. There's more overlap than you may think. We might see grandparents who are raising their grandchildren and in need of senior services and early childhood services. So it's a nice place to be in. But yes, Rebecca, I think you hit all the high notes. I really do.
Yeah, and I think,
shall I? Yeah.
Yeah, regardless of sort of what door or what program someone comes into originally, oftentimes other needs are identified either for that individual or for other people in their family. So what we try our best to do is really assess sort of comprehensively the needs of a given family and then connect them to resources that might be helpful to them to achieve whatever their goals might be. You want to go to the next slide? So this just shows a little bit what our impact is. So for different kinds of services, how many people do we reach and different populations? So these numbers actually are a little higher now because we didn't get a chance to update this slide, but we provide services that I mentioned, the Healthy Families Program, Parent-Child Health Plus, another program I didn't mention called Healthy Steps, which helps address developmental needs that children might have. So those are all what we call school ready, helping children to be school ready. We also have a lot of programs that support families. I mentioned our case management services, that's one example. And then we also have services for teenagers. And I mentioned that we have Project Safe, that's our youth leadership program that focuses on sexual health. But we also have a dropout prevention program, because we don't just want to provide high school equivalency prep classes, we want to also support students that are in high school in completing their high school degree. And then, sorry, my eyesight. Oh, and then we also have a large number, 28,000 people, that were assisted in accessing health services and health information. And last but not least, and Lauren, you could say if this number is also out of date, but we also have a vast array of our programs that are specifically focused on the needs of older adults.
I have a question, if I may.
Absolutely.
Here in Bay Ridge, we have a multilingual community. What other languages are you using to help people besides Spanish? I guess you have.
That is a great question. So the languages that are most often spoken in the community, and all of our programs have staff who speak both Spanish and Mandarin. We are in the process of hiring someone who is an Arabic speaker for our case management program, because that is certainly a growing need in the community. So we're working on hiring Arabic speakers. Beyond that, I would say it's not consistent. So sometimes we might have a speaker, like someone who speaks Russian, for example, but I wouldn't say it's consistent. We always have, for all of our programs, Mandarin and Spanish speakers. Would you add anything, Lauren?
I would say that it's often dependent upon the population that uses a particular site.
Right.
For example, we have 2 senior centers. One is located in an area that they draw a lot of Spanish speakers and Cantonese and Mandarin speakers, and very few English speakers. And then our Bay Ridge site has English speakers, Cantonese primarily, some Mandarin as well, and Russian. So we try to make the makeup of the staff reflect the dominant languages that are spoken at the site, but knowing that that changes and that we can always respond through a language line or through other ways of people accessing. So we don't want anyone to not receive help because the language is not spoken on site. But it's definitely something that does change over time. In fact, at our predominantly Cantonese and Russian site, we're seeing a lot more Spanish speakers. So we try to adapt as we go.
We also make sure that all of our written materials are in all of those languages.
Translated. Yep. So can we
I think
bridge over?
Older adult
I know
services.
we're probably at we're moving towards our time here. So and this is, everyone's familiar, I would assume in this committee, with the senior center model, or what the Department for the Aging now wants us to call older adult centers. Nobody wants us to say seniors anymore, but we say older adult centers, and people say, what's you mean senior centers? And as recently as 3 years ago, we were calling them neighborhood centers for older adults, which was also quite a mouthful. So whatever we call them, they are a place for any New Yorker over the age of 60 to come in and receive a hot and nutritious lunch. The donation is not required. All of the services are technically free of charge. We just request a small donation if someone wants to eat lunch. We have 2 sites. Our senior centers. One is in Bay Ridge, and that's the one we'll focus on for this presentation because it's in CB10. But we also do have one in Sunset Park as well. And because we're networked together, should we have someone who speaks a language that is not spoken at the site where they come in, we are able to refer them within our network to the other senior center where they might be able to engage in activities in their native language. This has been especially expanded with COVID, trying to provide virtual services. And so you may imagine that the access to technology and the digital divide that was seen in schools with young children trying to learn remotely during the pandemic was also seen in older adult populations trying to access virtual services during the pandemic. We saw many places that had great success because perhaps their constituents already had an internet connected device and familiarity with using it. We did not see the same immediate adoption of technology in our senior centers. So we've really been trying to increase our capacity. We've applied for grant funding to purchase new Wi-Fi enabled devices so that we can try to connect more people to the services. But at present, both of our older adult centers are open for in-person services while still remaining a virtual connection. And our in-person services are limited to a 25% capacity, but it's been working out so far, and people have been so grateful and so eager to engage with their peers. All of these photos, by the way, are pre-COVID. You'll notice no masks. You'll notice people sitting very close together. We'll need to update those, but people don't look as good when you only show half of their faces. So that's why we're showing pictures from the olden days when you could see everyone's face. But also know that at all of our older adult programs, masking is mandatory. And we do try to keep as much of a distance as possible while still providing exercise, yoga, arts and crafts, discussion groups, all kinds of and around nutrition and health issues affecting older adults while we're present. So I want to focus on the Shorehill Older Adult Center, which is at 9000 Shore Road, right there on the corner of 91st Street. I want to make sure that everyone that you're connected with spreads the word that you do not have to live at 9000 Shore Road in order to attend the Shorehill Older Adult Center. It's for anyone in the community who is the age of 60 or over. One of these days we'll have a huge sign that announces that on the street side, but for now we rely on, people, we rely on referrals for people to know that, and we are seeing a greater presence in the neighborhood as well as from the people that live within the Shorehill complex, which is about 650 people that live just in that complex alone, though not everyone takes advantage of the senior center. And so I'm glad that this will be shared, this presentation, because we would love to hear from anyone who has an inquiry about the senior center. Especially with COVID, it's best to call or email prior to sending someone over to the senior center, just so that you're the most up to date about what's available. And we are happy to share our calendar and welcome anyone who wishes to attend our beautiful place. And also for those of you who know this building, there's an enormous amount of beautiful outdoor space at Shorehill. So we're able to do meditation in the garden. And when it's not too hot, we'll have our exercise classes outside, and that mitigates some of the risk as well from doing in-person activities. There was one other program that I want to mention to this group, and that is our Social Adult Day program. So I'm hitting the highlights of our older adult programming here, but I feel like this is maybe the best kept secret in Bay Ridge, that we have a wonderful Social Adult Day program right down the road at 9000 Shore Road. It's co-located with the senior center, and the participants in the day program receive the same lunch that is served at the senior center. This, however, where someone who is 60 or over and fully independent may want to come to the senior center, the people who come to our Social Adult Day program need a little more help. They may have a cognitive impairment such as dementia. They're at risk for social isolation. In order to qualify, they actually must have some condition that impairs their ability to function and be able to benefit from this extra stimulation that that's provided. As you see in the group here, again, pre-COVID, they're playing horseshoes while seated. And I think the lady in the blue on the right looks like she's just gotten a really good score. She has an accomplished, focused look on her face there. It's also person-centered. The way we provide care is definitely, there's no one size fits all. So if someone was, as a profession, was a teacher, we may kind of build on that and give them, these materials to prepare and to, they may present some information to the group, or they may want to step into that role in whatever way that they can as part of this social group. We've also had someone who was a merchant seaman, and he loved to create models of boats and look at pictures of boats and discuss different types of watercrafts that could be taken out. So there's really no limit to the type of activities that can be adapted both to the person's preference and to their level of ability. We're not going to give everybody a crossword puzzle because not everyone likes them, and not everyone retains the ability to do them and to feel successful with it. So it's about feeling good, feeling successful, and giving the caregiver of the person a break. So this is the contact information for our Social Adult Day program, Seniors in Touch. I hope everyone will share this widely, because again, it's a wonderful service, and we want to get more and more people involved and aware of it. You'll see in this picture, I believe that's a musical instrument that our friend there is playing. We try to bring in music as much as possible, and art, things that really are so much a part of the human experience, and certainly can bring us a lot of joy in older age. The program hours are here. It's a shorter day because we presume that there's some travel time built in, and both of our programs are overseen by the Department of the Aging. Department for the Aging, we follow all the guidance from the state for these programs. So they are, we are doing our best to be compliant with every procedure that's handed down, both for the regular, we're doing masking, distancing, trying to keep everyone safe while still really enjoying the ability to see people in person once again. And those are the two programs at Shore Road. Those are the ones that I wanted to spotlight here. Does anyone have questions or comments for either Rebecca or myself?
Anyone have any questions? I don't see anyone in the chat right now that has any questions. There was a question about the map, but I sent the location. Thank you so much for that comprehensive review. And if you can also send us that PowerPoint so we can share it with the community board members, that would be great. And if there are no questions, we can move on to our final presentation. Okay, so our last presentation is actually by a former CB10 member, Donna Mae DePaulo, and she's going to be giving us a presentation from Christopher's Reason/Resource Training Center. Take it away.
Well, I don't have a presentation. I didn't realize I needed one, so you're all probably very happy. How are you, everybody? Josephine, nice to see everybody.
Nice
and
to see
Stella.
you.
I happen to be in Buffalo right now, and it's a little chilly, so that's why I have this on. We have been at 408 77th Street for the past, I think it's about 8 years. I was on community board probably for about 3 years, if I remember correctly. And what we are there is a 822 OASIS license, substance abuse and alcoholism counseling program. We were approached many years ago by the Arab community to open there due to the fact that a lot of Middle Eastern kids were dying, and still are, of overdoses in the community. And we were originally at 449 39th Street, that because of the pandemic, we had to close because we had the big building and we couldn't stay there anymore. The reason the rent got so high, we're right next to Center for Family Life. It was a building built for us, and we happened to had to leave. So we're doing most of our counseling at the Bay Ridge site, but most of it's telecommunication, as you know. We haven't had any COVID there, thank goodness. We're abiding by the mask and vaccinated, and most of our clients are seen by the computer, but we're starting now to open up a little more to see clients, not more than one in the waiting room and bringing them in. But we find, especially with alcoholism and substance abuse, and I don't know if you realize that alcoholism in Bay Ridge is a little higher than Sunset Park, but there is still a drug addiction. We find it a one-on-one works a little better with this population. So if you see someone 3 times a week, we'll probably see them once, and the other 2 will be telecommunications. But Josephine suggested that I came and speak to you guys because just to let you know, we're still around, we're still here, we're still trying to help. We're the only 822 in Sunset Park and, in Bay Ridge from 101st Street all the way to Remsen Street. There aren't any 822s there, and we're there. So hopefully we can help the community. It's a very small clinic, which we want to keep it that way. It's very discreet. You either know it or you don't. People are not allowed to hang outside. People are not allowed to smoke outside. We do get complaints by certain people, as Josephine knows. People called the police on us one Saturday at 12 noon for steam cleaning the sidewalk. So there are some people that don't like us there, and that's fine. We're helping people, and we're trying to reach out to the community, let you know we are here. We've helped a few people from CB10, relative to CB10, and people that don't have insurance. We frankly don't care. We're a nonprofit, and we're there to help the community. And that's really all I wanted to share. And if you have any questions, I'm here.
Should people call or visit a website or anything to make an appointment or contact you guys, or should they just walk in? And
What I will do is I didn't have a presentation with all that kind of stuff because I didn't think it was necessary. But what I do is I'll send Josephine all the information again in a flyer, the phone number. We don't have people walk in for the fact of COVID. Otherwise, we were always an open clinic. But a call, if you call us, we'll tell you not to wait 2 weeks for an appointment. Can you be here in 10 minutes? Because for substance abuse and alcoholism, there's a very small window to let people in that really want help. So we're very cognizant of that. We have an intake that is not even at the facility. And the reason why is we keep track of the people that go in. So we make sure that an employee does not say, come tomorrow, when the person actually needs to be seen in a few minutes. So I'll send that to you, Josephine, if you can.
I will, and I will share that. I just want to make sure everyone knows that you are a resource. Here at CB10, we've had occasion to make several referrals to Donna's program. And initially, Donna was a member of this board, helped us really formulate a committee at a time when we had a terrible issue with opioid addiction, street level sales, use. There was, a big problem that has quelled somewhat with a lot of new laws and regulations that were changed, but certainly the need for counseling services remains something that many of us, hear about. So knowing of your program, local groups, senior groups, and here at the community board, we want to continue to refer to such a great program who you really help so many people, and thank you.
Thank you. Are you aware Thursday a Muslim kid died on 78th and 4th of an overdose, who does not have family? Arlene, I call Arlene Miss Norway, called me, and I'm working with Judah. His mother is in a nursing home, his sister's in an institution, and we're collecting money to have him buried. We call Clavin, and we're trying to get him buried. So you'll see something on Facebook. Clavin, of course, is always good to us, so he's going to do the right thing. But the poor kid has no one. He was 29. So we're working with him right now. not his family, but him and Dr. Judas, of course, always been very helpful. Dr. Judah is our medical director in all our sites, Staten Island. Staten Island, real quick, we have 20 kids living there for free. We have one kid that's there for 3 years. And the reason he's there and what we do is we hire them there as recovery coaches, maintenance, chefs. And that's the key, keeping them, training them, paying them, and then going out to the community where at least they have a starting chance at recovery. Recovery, we realize, does not work unless you have something after the fact, not just go right back to the same place that you went.
Great.
Yes, I will, Lauren, I will send all the information to Josephine. And Josephine, you'll send
I
it
will
to
email that. Yes.
Good. I'll do that tomorrow if you don't mind.
Great. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was nice meeting all of you, especially New
It was
York,
nice
Glen Con. I love those guys. Take care. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, everyone.
guys.
Have a nice
Bye-bye.
evening.
Bye-bye.
All right.
All right, Jana. So
Thanks, Josephine. We don't have to, do we have to vote to adjourn the meeting?
no, we don't have to vote. We can
Oh, okay.
have a motion though, if we want to do it informally.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for coming, and it was great seeing everyone. We'll see you next month.